Hi guys, in this video I want to go over a bunch of different tricks that Path of Exile speedrunners use to go through the campaign faster. Many of them can be used on a league start, for example, as well. Alright, let's get started. The first one, vendor walking. Vendor walking is essentially a way to get quest rewards or interact with vendors in a faster way. So normally what people do, let's say they want to go to Nessa and buy some gem, they'll go to Nessa and then they'll buy the gem and then they'll move to the next zone. But this could be done much quicker. This could be done on the go, like so. Let's say I want to buy an amulet, maybe a paw amulet or whatever else you might want from Nessa. You can do it while walking towards the waypoint to get to the next zone. And the way to do this is as follows. You approach the NPC, the vendor, and right as you are getting to the NPC, you are clicking away. You are moving in a different direction so that you can actually do the interaction on the go. So it looks like this. Let me show you that again. And you can buy whatever you need. You can get a quest reward while you're walking, so there's no downtime. It's particularly useful, obviously, in speedruns where every second matters, but it can save you some precious time at least as well to get to maps quicker and, you know, get ahead in the economy. A lot of people know to do it in Act 1, Act 2, but they sort of stop doing that after that. I wanted to show you as well that it can be useful later on. So one example might be in Act 4. Let's say you've just killed Vol and you are making your way over to the mines. In Act 4 you might want some portals, so you can actually along the way to the mines pick up some portals without stopping. So let me just show you that again. First time around I didn't do it right. It's a bit difficult. Sometimes you might fail it because it requires fairly precise timing. You need to really move away from the NPC at the right moment, right as you are approaching the NPC. So let me show you that again. So if you do it correctly, you're not even wasting a single second on that vendor interaction. It can actually be used outside of towns. I'll show you an example. So this is a clip of me doing that in a speedrun. So this is Act 7. I've just killed the boss in Malagaro Sanctum, and I need to pick something up from the from Silk. This is outside of town, and you can actually do vendor walking in this situation as well. This is you can do this in every run with a bit of practice. Let me just show you that again. So you approach the NPC, and as you get to the NPC, you move away, you click away, and you can pick up the obsidian key without stopping. Let me show you one more example where you can use vendor walking in later acts. This is actually in Act 10. When you kill the boss in the desecrated chambers, you need to talk to the NPC, to Bannon, to be able to go to the next zone. And here I've actually used the vendor walking to do that interaction without stopping. So let me just show you that again. Okay, so as I approach Bannon, I click away to make sure that there's no stopping, and it saves me a few seconds. If you get in the habit of doing that, you can consistently save time in every act, and yeah, that could be useful both in speedruns and on a league start. Alright, next up, next trick, using move onlys strategically. So let me show you what I mean. Again, I'm going to use a run I've done just to show you. So notice what I'm doing at the very start. I'm putting move only on a lot of different keys. Have you ever noticed speedrunners do this sort of thing? Do you have any idea why they do that. Is it do we do it because we're old, because we're losing control over our fingers and just slam random keys on the keyboard? Is that it? Well, yeah, maybe for some of us, but there is another reason, and it's all to do with how gems land on the skill bar. So let me show you that in game. Okay, so let me just make a bit of room on the skill bar. When I put in precision, precision will always land on the leftmost slot on the skill bar. So in this case, because both Q and E are empty, it's going to land on Q because it's to the left. It first checks if there's any room in the top bar, then the bottom bar, and then the alt bar. So by using this information, you can make sure that the gem lands on precisely the slot that you want. And the reason why it's useful is because that way you have full control over where the gems land, and it can be very annoying when all your hotkeys are messed up and you're not sure what to do. You have to fix them. You're using the wrong skills. That could also get you killed if you're in a hardcore league. So just to show you, in my speedrun, I actually put move only on a lot of different keys, on mouse 5, on Q, E, A, F, and D. So why do I do it? Well, this becomes obvious once you look at what I do in Submerged Passage, or just before it. Okay, so I've done the Hail Rake, and I'm about to go back to Submerged Passage. And speedrunners will know that this is one of the more difficult areas of the game. There's a lot of gems to put in, and it's quite challenging to do all of that while you're running. So by putting move onlys in specific specific slots of your skill bar, you can make it a much easier, much smoother. So here, then the first gem I want to put in, I want it to go specifically on W, and I've set it up in such a way that there's no that this is the leftmost gem. So it's definitely going to go on W. It's not going to go somewhere where I don't want it to go. Okay. The next gem I'm going to be putting in is Holy Flame Totem, the red one, and I want it to go on R. So that is the next available leftmost gem. Later on, I'm going to also put in Flame Wall. That's going to go on T. Let me just show you one more thing, because I think this is quite useful. And I've been using this in basically all of the speedruns. So in Alt Bar, I've got AF and a bunch of other keys assigned there. I always put move only on both A and F, and the point is that I don't use those keys until typically later on in the run. But at level 16, when I put in my reservations, typically like heralds or skitterbots, I want them to land on Alt W and Alt E. So those are the keys where I want my auras. So if you are really min-maxing the speedruns, if you know your build very well, which is kind of the key to going through the campaign quickly, you can plan it out a couple of acts in advance to make sure that the gems land precisely where you want them to land. Alright, so that was using move onlys strategically. Next trick is the Strongbox Trick. So we're talking here about the safest way to open a strongbox, and I'll show you that in action. Okay, so let's imagine you've got a strongbox and you want to open it. The safest way to do it is to use a movement skill right as you get to it, so that, for example, in case it freezes you, you are still safe. So you are walking towards a strongbox. Right as you get to it, you use a movement skill. It could be anything. It could be Frostblink, it could be Leap Slam, it could be Flame Dash. And the point is that as soon as the box opens, it might freeze you, but you will still use that movement ability to actually get away. So this requires a fairly precise timing. You need to use movement skill at a very precise timing to make sure that if indeed you got frozen, you are still a safe distance away. So I'll show you how it works when you actually do get a freeze box. So this is an example of where you really want to do it. So I did get frozen, but I was able to jump away because I used the movement skill right as I got to the freeze box. If I didn't do this trick, then I would have been frozen and in the middle of the pack of monsters. If additionally the box had like detonate dead or ice nova, I would be dead. But as it is, because I didn't get surrounded, because I was far away from monsters, I managed to survive it. So it's a fairly useful trick. The timing is quite precise. It takes a bit of practice to do it correctly, but like I said, you can use it with a lot of different movement abilities. Okay. Next trick. Next trick is clearing guaranteed monster packs, or maybe to put it in a different way, is to going out of your way to clear some packs that are guaranteed to be in a specific part of the campaign, for example. So one example might be Battlefront. It's near where the quest item is actually, so it's quite close to where you have to be anyway. So near this Blackguard chest, there's always a bunch of different packs. There's a pack here, there's a pack there as well, and there is one underneath. So you can always get a bit of extra experience. And the reason is why it's useful is because sometimes you just need a bit more experience to hit a specific level. Maybe you want to hit level 24 so you can use the flat damage to spells crafts. Maybe you are in Act 2 and you want to hit level 16 before Weaver. So to help you do that, you can actually use a guaranteed pack that always spawns in Chamber of Sins level 2. So I'll show you what I mean. I have a screenshot prepared for you. So when you are in Chamber of Sins, this is an example of what it might look like. You start here and the exit is there. There are always guaranteed magic packs that you can use to get some extra experience to make sure that you hit level 16 before Weaver. It's quite important to hit that level because then you can equip your reservations like Herald of Ash, Herald of Thunder, summon Skitterbots, whatever you might be using. That's a big power spike. So this zone really helps you get that guaranteed experience. So the layout of this map is sort of always the same. You always start in this area and there's three corners to look at. There's like this corner, this one, and this one. The exit or the entrance to the next zone is always in one of those three, and the other two have guaranteed magic packs. So it's a great way to get that extra experience. And so for example, in this layout, what I would do is I would walk up to here, and instead of going straight for the exit, I would actually clear this one pack because it's quite close, and only then I would make my way to the next zone. I think it's a nice thing to do consistently whenever you are doing a run, whether this is just a league start run or a speed run. It just helps you guarantee that you get the experience you need, and Chamber of Sins is usually more efficient experience than you get in other zones in the area. Right? Next up is next trick is pre-selecting waypoints. Okay, so what is that? Pre-selecting waypoints is essentially a faster way to use waypoints. So if you use waypoints normally, what you do is you get to the waypoint. Let's say you want to go to the Battlefront, or yeah, let's say you want to go to the Ebony Barracks. You get to the waypoint, you move your cursor to Ebony Barracks, and you go there. It takes a while. you need to find where Ebony Barracks is, you need to move your mouse there, and there's a bit of a delay, but there's a faster way. So let me show you how to do it, how speedrunners do it. So this is how it works. Let me just show you first, and I'll explain how this works. So this is what a lot of speedrunners refer to as pre-selecting waypoints. And the way it works is as follows. You click on the waypoint. While you are walking towards it, you open the world map. The default key for that is U. You place the cursor over whatever waypoint you want to go to, and then you close the world map. It's important to close it at the end, so you have to press U essentially twice. Press it the first time, move the cursor over whatever waypoint you want to go to, and then close it. Okay, so let me just show you once again how it looks in action. The reason why you do have to close it is because it often bugs out if you don't. If you just open it, it doesn't always work. So once again, you get to the waypoint, move the cursor. Okay, so this is an example of why you do have to close it, because if you don't close it, it can bug out like this. So open, move the cursor there, close it, and then once you actually get to the waypoint, the world map is going to open again, and you can just click. So just like this. All right. Next trick I've got for you is strategic logouts and portal usage. This is not about logging out in the middle of a boss fight. This is not about trying to avoid a slam and praying to Chris Wilson for no packet loss. This is not about that. This is about what to do after you've reached the end of a zone, killed the boss or got to the quest item, and you want to get back to town as quickly as possible to save yourself some time. So let's say that you are in Act 1. Let's say you've just killed Fairgraves and you want and you want to get to town. One way to do it would be to portal to town. But this is quite slow, because when you portal to town in Act 1, you are quite far away from the NPCs. You have to walk all the way here, and it also costs you a portal scroll, which you might not have very many of them when you're in Act 1. You're quite starved for resources. So using a portal to get back to town is not the best strategy, especially in Act 1. But instead you can just log out. So let's just pretend that we've just killed Weaver and we want to get to town. You can simply log out using a logout macro like from Lootbot, and when you log back in, you are quite close to the NPCs. It depends what town you're in, and I could go through each town, each act, and explain which is faster, whether to use a portal or to log out. But actually, it's much simpler than that. Basically, in every act except for 4 and 9, it's faster to log out at the end of a zone if you want to get to town. So if you're in Act 2, let's say you've just killed Weaver, you can just log out. Same goes for Act 3, for example. Let's say you just got the quest item in the docks, just log out. The only exceptions would be Act 4 and Act 9. If you are in Act 4, it is actually quicker to use a portal scroll. So imagine you have just killed Malachi and you want to go to Act 5. The quickest way to do that is to actually portal to town, and the reason for it is because when you portal to town, you are actually quite close to waypoint. So let's say you want to go to Act 5 or even use the waypoint to go to a different zone. Portaling in Act 4 is always faster than logging out. And the same goes for Act 9, which is essentially just a reskinned Act 4. So let's say you did some stuff in the quarry and you want to take a waypoint to a different place. Logging out wouldn't be as fast. I'll show you that now. So let's say you log out. You're going to be quite far away from the waypoint. When you log back into town, you have to make this walk. But if instead, actually, sorry, I was in the wrong town. I'll explain that in a second. Let me just show you that again. Let's say you're in the quarry. When you log out and log back in, you are quite far away from the waypoint. You have to walk for a while. But instead, if you use the town portal, you would be much closer. This is why in Act 4 and Act 9 it's better to use a portal rather than logging out. Okay, one thing to mention, you should never log out if you have a portal up that you want to use. So let's say you've done some sort of portal trick, or maybe you have a portal for a friend. Never log out, because when you log back in, that portal is gone. So you don't want to do that. Okay, a couple more things about strategically using logouts and portals. Let's say you're already in Act 2 in a run, maybe a league start run for example, but you want to come back to Act 1 for gems. The typical way would be to just go to the Act 1 waypoint and then move up and go to Nessa and pick up the gems. This takes a while because Nessa is quite far away from the waypoint. So there's actually a quicker way to strategically use a logout. So what you do is you still go to the waypoint, but as soon as the Lionized Watch screen appears, you log out. And I'll show you why. So now you log out, and when you log back in, you are in town and you are much closer to Nessa. You don't have to walk all the way from the waypoint. This is just one little optimization that you can use. It's a small thing, but people say that mastery is doing a lot of the small things perfectly. So these things really add up, especially in a speedrun, but it can even save you some time in a league start scenario. Okay. One more thing about portals and logouts. When you log out and log back in, you are going to be in the last town you visited. So let me just show you that. Let's say I now go to Act 3 zone, like the Battlefront. If I now log out, I'm going to be in Act 1 town. Now this may be useful or this may be quite bad. I'll show you how you can actually use that information to your advantage, to either save yourself some time or to make sure you don't waste any. So, for example, one thing I do in speedruns is I will delay doing the crypt trial until I'm in Act 3, until after I kill Piety in the Lunaris Temple. So let's say that I've just killed Piety in the Lunaris Temple and I want to go back to Act 2 and do the crypt trial. I don't actually have the waypoint, but it doesn't matter. Let's imagine this is the crypt waypoint. I do the trial, and after the trial, if I log out, I will be back in Act 3 town. But if instead I actually want to pick up some gems from the NPCs, I'm going to use a portal. Knowing that, knowing what town you end up in is quite useful, because that determines whether you should use a portal or whether you should log out. Getting some gems after the crypt trial in this sequence is quite useful. You can, for example, pick up stuff like Desecrated Wave of Conviction or some support like Elemental Focus or Control Destruction. It all depends on the build. But the point is to understand what town you're going to be in when you log out, and whether it's better to use a portal or a logout. They're little things that can save you a bit of time. It's especially good if you're trying to move quicker through the campaign, obviously. Okay, so those are all the tricks I've got for you, I wanted to show you one more thing. There are other tricks and resources that are available out there. I've compiled them actually. I'll show you where you can find them. I'll leave the link to this document under the video. So this is essentially a compilation of a variety of different resources that you can use to get through the campaign quicker. So there are tabs at the bottom. The leftmost tab shows speedruns of different kinds from the last few leagues. They are color coded, so you can, for example, find Act 10 100% runs. So that's with all skill points and all labs. You can find just the first part of that, which is Act 500%. You can find 2-stone runs, which are runs where the goal is to kill the Searing Exarch and the Eater of Worlds. Sometimes people also want to make sure that they're like level 85 or 90. There are 80% runs where you don't have to do the labs or skill point quests, and there are twink runs where you can use gear you've previously acquired. So this is what you can find in the leftmost tab. There are also other resources. So for example, if you're looking for other tricks that speedrunners use, I recommend you check out this video. This is about doing the rest and comb skips. This is like the newest tech that people have figured out, using the zooming in and zooming out to actually do the skips. So you might want to check that out. There's also a lot of layout guides that various community members have created. A lot of guides were created by Balar. There is one for most of the troublesome zones, so you might find that useful. And the final tab has basically older runs, so it's just like the leftmost tab, but it is for previous patches, 3.18, 3.17, and 3.16. If there are any resources that you know of that are not in this document yet, feel free to leave a comment under the video, and I'll add them. Alright, thank you for watching. That's all I've got for you today. I hope it was useful. Alright, see ya.